Check, check. Alright, I'm not understanding this. Hold on, give me lots more minutes. Alright, well, I think it's going. I think this is working. I think it was resetting OBS. OBS Studio? Oh no, maybe it's just OBS. Yeah, it's just OBS. I can't get Studio to do, like... I'm using the old shit. I really should upgrade. Okay. We don't need these advertisements anymore. Oh, whoops. What about like that? Okay. Alright. So, there's sort of like this real life that I'm attempting. And, oftentimes, I find myself, compelled to engage, with it. You know, so it definitely does take precedent. Oh, let's hop into the channel here, in case anybody wants to talk to us. I don't want to mean to just lecture at you. What does that one mean? Create, oh, open chat, create invite. Oh, what? Maybe I should have. Yeah, okay. I think there's a whole thing here. Open chat. Oh, he showed me a picture. I'll be right back. Against all insanity. Oh, okay. Alright. There's chats on these. That's funny. Oh, there's pictures here too. Gotcha. Okay. So I think I'm running. Oh, let me just make sure. I think I'm running in the. Yeah, here I am. One-on-one. Choose a slide. There it is. People could come talk to me about religion. On this Friday, happy Friday, pastafarians. Me, schizophrenic H, doing some fucking evangelism here on a Friday. I think we've had some good conversations here. I think they both have been good, and so that's why I'm hopeful to hop back on and maybe have more conversations in the sort of hour that I have right here before I have to go live my life again. Which I'm not like apologizing for. I'm just giving you a heads up. Like I apologize to my life for like doing this. It's sort of the other way. There's an idea that I'm thinking about recently. Someone said it, and I don't remember who said it because of like it's captivated a part of me that I just didn't really have a clarity on, and it's this thing about resisting. It feels just like Facebook or something, but resisting the pressure to monetize your hobbies. Like that definitely feels like a freedom that I would like right now. I definitely feel the pressure to monetize my hobbies, which is this weird sort of I don't know if it was. I don't know how strong it's been. It definitely is amplified in a sort of YouTube thing of like, if I was playing this game as an exploration, I'm not playing this game. I'm just fucking walking through it. I played it all the way. I went as far as I wanted, and now I'm just sort of dicking around while I talk at you and then have conversations. Because I'd have to pause it if I was playing it. You know what I mean? And so that's not what I'm doing here. I'm sort of monetizing my religion, basically, and that's been done. Like lots of people have monetized their religion and made tons and tons of money. Like that's what all this evangelical Christianity is about, is that some motherfucker in the South knows more about what the Bible means than you do, and you fucking pay him $100 because you believe him or whatever. Like that's just because they're parishioners doesn't mean they're not part of the scam, right? Like it's the religious expression of all those people to be like, I give $100 to whoever fucking lies to me, right? Whoever tells me that Jesus wants me to be rich gets $100. So like, yeah, a lot of people monetize their religion to sort of ill effect. So I don't feel at all guilty or sort of like invasive. I don't think that my sort of like, because I'm a religious person and I keep it into religious context, and so making some money while I'm doing religion doesn't seem to be a betrayal of anything. And also, yeah, that other thing of like, I've learned to compartmentalize it out of annoying the people around me. So, oh, here we go. I want one of those guys. So yeah, instead of like a hobby is sort of like, you know, the first time I play the game, right? That's sort of like what a hobby is. And so like this sort of reactive, or not reactive, but culture of reaction of like, watch me play this game, sort of is very, very YouTube, I guess. But oh,
Hello.
here we go. Hello there.
Hi there. Your name?
Sorry, say again.
You have an interesting username.
Oh, thank you. We haven't talked before.
No.
Cool. Yeah, it's sort of like I'm trying to state my position so people sort of understand
Okay.
the conversations I'm trying to have.
Yeah. Can you state your position, your worldview?
So yeah, to elaborate on the statement that Jesus lied, I think that we can agree that most believers of the Jesus story would say that Jesus can't lie, and so evidence of a lie would be evidence against the sort of story of Jesus. And so I think that it summarizes my argument of why the Jesus character is an unbelievable character, in my opinion.
Mm. So, like, what do you lie about?
There's a couple things. There's a couple answers to this. Some of them are more clear than others, but I think in Mark 4, he sets up a pattern of behavior where he speaks in parables in public and explains the parables in private, and I think that is technically lying. It's withholding information. So I think
I can understand that.
Yeah.
The thing is, I can understand why he would do that.
Why would he do that? Oh, please do explain.
So there are people at different stages of their personal evolution, their personal development. Just on this server alone, you see people who are very combative, very like hostile towards people of other worldviews. For example, just last night.
Are you combative and hostile to people of different views?
Yes, like some people. On
No,
this
are
server
you?
are
I'm
very
asking if
combative.
you are. Are you one of those
am I?
people? Because you're setting up a
no.
sort of us and them, and you seem like one of them to me. You seem like you've come in here very combative.
Sorry, I don't mean to appear that way.
Do you think that the people that you find combative are mean to appear that way?
I think they are intentionally trying to be that way.
I think you're
For
being
example,
hypocritical now. I think you're reading into other people's intent and not
Well, hold
into
on,
yourself.
let me talk about what happened to me last night. So I encountered a person who was in favor and was advocating for the stoning of homosexuals and sodomites. You know, just like barbaric shit. That seemed like really silly to me. It seemed like this person it's like they were born in the Stone Age or something. But most modern Christians aren't like that, and so they're very good natured.
Yeah, but modern Christians are false Christians, so it doesn't matter what modern Christians are. They've all fallen away from the true gospel.
Well, there are modern Christians who know better than what all of the Bible says.
Yeah, and Christians in the first century would not think of them as true Christians. Yes.
Yes, and honestly, in my opinion, like anyone who believes they're a Christian, in my eyes, is a Christian. Anyone who accepts Jesus Christ into their heart, that's the bare minimum. That's like.
Is that what the Bible says about it? Is that what the Bible says? Anyone who says they're a Christian is a Christian?
I don't know, but that's just my opinion.
Are you a Christian?
I got baptized, but I like to study all the world religions. I find value in
So
all of them.
is that a no? You're not a Christian?
I was baptized, so I don't know. Take that what you will. I do.
I'm trying to. I thought I was going to take it as a no, but then you reiterated like maybe it's a yes. So you are a Christian?
So
because you said,
and I find that
you said that anyone who your criteria for a person who says that they believe that Jesus is the Christ is a Christian. That's what you said.
Yeah.
A couple statements ago. Okay, and you are one of those people.
Identity.
Like by your own. Okay, and you identify as Christian.
Sure, but I mean, I read a lot of texts that are not Christian, and a lot of people in here, if I told them I read them, they'd say like, "Oh, you're a Satanist or something." Like, I value esoteric texts, like called the Law of One. I love that one the most. But I find some of the passages in the Bible quite beautiful and inspiring. A lot of them kind of barbaric, so not my favorite, but.
The Bible also makes some like truth claims about reality, specifically in the person of Jesus and the sort of metaphysical concept of God, the creator of reality. How do you feel about the Bible's claims about the divinity of, or the godhood of Jesus the Christ?
Well, in my personal opinion, everyone is divine, and everyone has godhood within them.
So you're saying, in the same way that Jesus is the Christ, I am also the Christ?
If you so choose to see yourself that way, and I won't force you to see yourself that way, but that is my view.
That anyone would be equally correct to say, like Jesus said, I am the begotten of the Father. Anyone is equally correct when they claim it.
Yes, and that was what he was trying to tell us, right? But then the Jews would stone him for that because that's blasphemy. And
right.
He felt a very strong connection to the Father, which was just the God in heaven, the infinite God in heaven, which he was communicating with, or at least says he was communicating with, and I believe he was. I believe he.
Yeah, but in the same way that you are communicating with the Creator of heaven.
Yeah, like the way, like the name of the Creator to me is very like transient and not important. But I mean, I called the Creator by many names. Be it infinity or Jesus or Allah. Or, I don't know, the cosmic web. I communicate with infinite intelligence all the time.
All these ideas are synonymous, you're saying?
Yeah, it's just names. Like, you're just naming the infinite one universe that exists all around us. And we can communicate with it.
But if I were to name it Hitler, that would be offensive, right? If I were to be like, Hitler the Christ, you'd be like, hold on a second.
People, yeah, you'd piss off a lot of people.
Because
people are like, yeah, that's fucked up. But I mean, in my opinion, everyone is the same being. That is the universe.
But this is not a standard sort of Christian idea. Like you might have gleaned it from Christ's teachings, but it's not like a mainstream Christian identity, as it were.
In my opinion, a lot of Christ's teachings were misinterpreted because they were so. I wouldn't say confused, but they are confusing to people who don't intuit it themselves.
So if I was to say that a religion is sort of a subset of beliefs, if I were to define it that way, and I were to say that sort of people are of the same religion if they have the same subset of beliefs, would you agree that the religion that you belong to has a very very small amount of adherence, like that maybe the things that you believe are sort of unique maybe to yourself, like you are reinterpreting the sort of teachings of Christ, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I have my own unique interpretation, and everyone has their own unique interpretation.
So I believe that's true. I think the whole point of the problem of this is we're talking about something of a subjective nature of the things that we find convincing, and that the answer to that is subjective to each of us. And so in the I'm sort of anti-religion as far as like we must acknowledge that we all have a different subset, and so like talk about yes. I agree.
So yes, over like I think from age 12 to maybe age 22, I identified myself as a strong atheist, and I love science. I love studying the cosmos. That was primarily why I was an atheist, is because there were a lot of these dogmatic Christians, throwing their beliefs around, trying to enforce it on everyone in the legislation, and trying to make people feel guilty for being themselves. They're telling people they're going to hell if they weren't raised in the religion or they didn't accept Christ, and so that led me at an early age to completely reject religion and God altogether for at least 10 years. It wasn't until I started experimenting with my own mind, studying my own mind, and studying the universe as a whole. I've always had a lifelong affection for the universe and studying the cosmos at large. I was contemplating quantum physics and what that means for me as a being, as a self, what it means that we exist in essentially what is a quantum multiverse of infinite possibilities and probabilities, what that means. And I started receiving communication from what I now know to be my future self. Insights. I was receiving insights from a future accelerated state of mind, which you would say a heightened state of consciousness.
And it identifies itself as you, or you identify it as you?
My first realization spiritually was that I am God, that I am alone am the Father, here incarnate on earth, that I am indeed Jesus Christ and every being that has ever walked the earth. Mohammed, every person on this server, everyone. I am everyone. That was the revelation I received. It's just that, seeing that the nature of selfhood is an illusion, that it appears that we're the center of the universe, like everywhere around us is equally, the same distance to the edge of the universe. That's an illusion, right? The self is an illusion. That we are centered in this body is a phenomenon that isn't necessarily, that we're just this being in the center. We're the whole thing. We're the universe. Does that make sense?
Yes, I'm seeing what you're saying. Of that, I understand that illusion argument that you're making, and I'm understanding sort of how it correlates from the distance to the edge of the universe is sort of the distance we can see, pointed in all directions, and it makes it feel like it's the center of a circle, but the circle is the circle of your vision, not the circle of reality.
Yeah, I'm sort of an idea, like what would I consider myself to be, like this body, just this personality. If I say like I'm just this body, like that's something that I ascertained using my mind. I drew the distinction between the skin and the outside of my body as somehow being distinct, fundamentally different. That like as if that was, but what I recognize is that was a subjective acknowledgement. Right, it's subjective that somehow the inside of my body is different from the outside of my body, when in reality it's just the universe being the universe either way. So my identity shifted from being a self in the middle to the entire universe.
Sure. I see what you're saying, and I understand that, but I do feel real distinctions as a self. Like there is a sort of idea of like, if it's true that all these whom I encounter are also myself, then I am sort of in a condition where I hear only the thoughts of one particular one. There is one whose thoughts I hear, and many whose thoughts I don't, at what I would call this moment. So I see some real distinctions between the oneness of everything and the sort of, human selfness of a person who would call himself Mitch. I understand what you're saying as far as like the sort of self and life and intelligence they're all facets of the same thing, but I do want to identify as this particular facet for this about 80-year span here, specifically, the food that I want to eat while I'm here.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, there's distinctions between one personality and the next, and I believe we should celebrate those.
Right. I see the oneness of the brotherhood of the intelligence that we carry, the sort of
yes.
the sort of same source of the flame, we might say. But
deep down, we're all the same. Like deep down, we all want the best for everyone involved, each other, our family, our friends, and there may be that subset of people who are very lost and confused, and maybe they just hate the world and they hate themselves. That's a smaller subset of people a lot of people who feel that way don't want to know. But those people have their role. But for the most part, most people have a desire to be good to themselves and their community and their family and their friends. So just that acknowledgement, that deep down, we all want the same thing, which is just pure unconditional love, just to get along, just to be well and whole again within ourselves and each other. Very basic and valuable recognition to make, right, when you're with other people. So it helps to keep that intent in mind, in your heart, so to speak, that when you're with another person, you do whatever it is in your power so that they are having a good time. And that you are also having a good time too. Don't leave yourself out of it. You want everyone in the conversation to have a good time. And so like, whatever it is that's in your power, naturally like that will come to you. If that is your intent to brighten the vibe of the room or the conversation, you will naturally, ways of doing that will come to you through your speech, through your voice, through your demeanor. So I would say that's probably one of Christ's most central teachings. I find Christ's teachings most valuable of anything in the Bible, which is why I was curious to say why you thought he lied. Because I think he did
said
reserve
some things that were not true.
Well, I think he did reserve some teachings for people who were of a different part of their personal development, right? Like people who have moved past maybe like immediately judging everything as like satanic or evil, but who are more like rational minded. Those
right, but why hold back nuance? What is the purpose of that? Why not just say that as you're preaching? Why did he keep teachings from some of the populace as if they were
I'm sure some
of understanding?
I'm sure some of it was self-preservation, because like I said, like a lot of
it didn't
teachings,
work though. Like he did not preserve himself. Like he can't have wanted self-preservation. That wasn't his goal. Like self-preservation is antithetical to his mission, isn't it?
To some extent, but I think every being fears death to some capacity.
Does the God the Father fear death? Does the one omnipotent fear death if it's not going to happen?
Well, if he's not incarnate in a body, obviously there's nothing to be afraid of. But
right.
when you're in a body,
he called himself that. Jesus called himself that. He said he was. So Jesus, the Jesus of the Bible, and I understand your interpretation of him is one of us, which I think is a healthier interpretation of it than most Christians. But like, as far as like, is there anything beautiful in the Bible? Sure. There's passages that are beautiful, but they're in the same chapters as very barbaric ideas, and you know. Selecting which of his teachings are the most beautiful is fine and everything, but like he had some unbeautiful teachings. Like we can't think of him as what he claimed to be because it looks like he claimed to be closer to the answer than anyone can ever get. And I think we can surpass him. I think our understanding of reality and the self and our place in it and the work of the Creator and how we assist the Creator in that has developed since his time, and so deifying him is, which I think most Christians do. I think it's part of the Christian religion, is because in the way that we can take beauty from the Bible, we can also do it from the Quran. And so I really want to speak to people who say no, you can't. The Bible is special in its place. There's more beauty in the Bible than something like the Quran.
Yeah, I get frustrated with those kind of conversations.
Yeah, so I think that my argument... Yeah. So I think we're going to agree on most positions.
Yeah, I think there's still value to be taken from Jesus' teachings. I think he was very wise.
Right, but I think, in the same way that there's value to take from the teachings of Muhammad, he was also very wise. Right.
He's also very wise, yes, and I still have yet to study him, but from what little I've seen, he was very poetic and...
Right, and so equating those two as equal prophets of the one true God is sort of I would agree to that position.
Yes, because there's something, like you said, like there's something deep down within us that knows what's right and knows what's good, right? And for some people, that seems to speak as a voice from within them, and they call it the Spirit, or they call it the Christ within, or the whatever, Allah. It doesn't matter what, like I said, it doesn't matter what you name it. There's an innate intelligence, an innate intuition that is common to every man. And when you really start meditating upon that and praying for that kind of guidance, you begin to receive it. You begin to communicate with the infinite intelligence that's within you. Because you can talk to the way I view it is like you're talking to the larger portion of your subconscious mind that is not bound by physical the biological limitations of the body, but instead taps into the infinite information that's available throughout the cosmos. And I have physical evidence, at least for myself, to believe that this is the case, but also first-hand experience of intuiting things that really shouldn't be intuited, right? Or I don't know what that means. Something that like things I've learned things from myself that I have not read anywhere in a book. You know.
I feel similar. Like there is sort of a way I have of coming to a conclusion, like taking evidence and then assembling it into a new thought that originated in what I would call myself.
Yes, and so a lot of the spiritual path goes into trusting yourself and trusting in the universe as a whole, trusting in whatever it is that's happening here, that it's actually happening and unfolding for the highest good for ourselves.
Why would we believe it's the highest good, though? What's the evidence that's the highest good? Isn't it equally possible that it's the highest evil? How could we tell the difference?
Well, many times along the spiritual path, we will feel we're being led astray by a negative spirit or a negative voice, and that's a whole thing. I've gone through that many times, but I feel I've come to a point in my journey where I've seen that even the negative experiences in my life, or the negative entities that have talked to me right in my mind, the negative thoughts, I've learned from them and I've grown from them. And even all these negative experiences that humanity has gone through in the past, like the Holocaust, right? We've learned from those experiences too. We've learned how bad it can get in the human psyche and culture, and we've taken precautions to prevent against that. And so now you see that those people did not totally die in vain, that we learned from that so that we grow as a species psychologically. So I've come to a viewpoint where you can learn from any experience in your life, all from the bad and the good, right? And I always try to reaffirm that, even through tough times. It's faith, a type of faith. I see
that you're attempting to answer my question, but I think you're sort of misunderstanding. So I agree with what you're saying, which is it's possible that because from each thing that we might call evil can come good, it's possible that the net would be the greatest possible good. But what I'm saying is it's equally possible that the net, because not only can good come from evil, evil can come from good. You're saying because of this Holocaust, we have put into place preventatives. And so from that good, a greater good comes. But what if, because that preventative is put in place, a person must now come up with a more sinister way to perpetuate a Holocaust, one that doesn't show up on a Holocaust meter, and so this good that we put in place causes a worse evil. Like, it's equally possible that from good comes evil. And so how do we know that why ought we expect the greatest possible good instead of the greatest possible evil? If we would, you're saying to trust the universe, that what the universe wants is the greatest possible good. I'm not sure I'm convinced of that. I think the universe is sort of chaotic. I think we'll get a middle ground if we let the universe drive. It won't be, yeah.
I think chaos plays a role in the universe. I think chaos is equivalent to what we would call free will. But I think there's also a unity aspect to the universe. That is, every single particle in this universe is gravitationally bound to every other particle in the universe. And there are trillions and trillions and trillions of stars and galaxies and planets with life on them. And they are all talking to each other through the most basic communication that's possible, and that's through pure causality, right? Waves of causality, like light waves and gravitational waves. You could say every particle in the universe is entangled with every other particle, and there's sort of a network between, an invisible network that connects all things. We call it gravity, we call it light. You can see this network in the sky when you start mapping the galaxies. So if you click on my username and you look at my profile banner, it's brain cells on the left and the large-scale structure of the universe on the right, which is composed of galaxies. And you can see a structure. Both structures are structured by intelligence or large amounts of information. coming together and communicating with itself and forming a similar structure. So like I said, I've intuited a lot of things in states of meditation and prayer from what I would call my infinite self or higher self. And I believe that the structure of the intelligence of the higher self manifests as the large-scale structure of the universe, and in at many scales. But the two most resonant scales, the similarity between brain cells and the large-scale structure of the universe, to me is very indicative of infinite intelligence that just permeates the universe. There's a lot of entropy or information that builds up, and there's nowhere for it to go. So it starts modifying itself and moving where it wants to move. So I also come to view my personal will as synonymous with gravity. That what I do is simply the laws of physics. But because I am the universe, I want exactly what the universe wants. And that is,
yes, but in this case, I am the Mitchell, and I am the tree, and I am the apple, and part of me wants to consume another part of me. Like, we're talking about, if I am all, like, there is nothing but the will of the all. But I'm also this very definite self, and in a more real way, I'm that very definite self. In a way of, like, I might be at odds with that other intelligence. I don't know why I would, because there's a universal intelligence, doesn't mean that the universal intelligence wants what's best for me. A universal best is best for the universal intelligence, but I'm not it in a way. I'm it in a way, but I'm hard not it in a very clear and real way.
Yes, and that's obvious to everybody.
And if I have to choose, I'll choose me. If it's clearly stated, it's you or me. It's me.
Yeah, and that's fair. Like there's an inherent selfishness that's built into every biological being.
Including that being, the larger being, a selfishness. He is.
No, that I don't quite. I don't quite know.
You just said. Oh, and
well,
then
no,
you special pleaded. Yeah,
So
the higher being
being,
has a
right?
selfishness, right?
So the higher being, right? That would an intelligence that would permeate the whole of the universe.
Yeah,
a being that has accumulated so much. Well, a being that has accumulated so much insight and so much wisdom, would recognize that it is one with all beings, and that to harm the well-being of another being is to harm its own well-being. And this is something I've seen in my own life, that when the people around me are suffering, I too am suffering. I can feel that suffering. And so I strive to make sure that the people around me are in good standing, emotionally, right? Because I recognize them as part of me. So compassion, empathy.
You recognize you both as part of the same self, and
yes.
So, what if the two parts of the self come into conflict, though? Like, that's the point, is if one of those three is in conflict, let's say the big self says to Abraham, I need you to sacrifice your son to me, right? The Bible says, do it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that people will perceive negative thoughts from higher states of consciousness.
Right, but that's what I'm talking about, is a conflict of interest between the local self and the universal self. If those ever come into conflict, I'm choosing the local self. The local self will choose the local self. And the universal self won't choose, because in the if they're in conflict, won't choose both, it will choose the universal self, right? Selfishness will make that decision.
So it is, like I said, it is my opinion that the largest portion of the infinite consciousness is completely benevolent, because it recognizes all beings as one. Now, there are portions of the higher state of consciousness, the higher state of mind, that are still selfish. They reject the idea of unity between beings, and they seek to glorify the self and accumulate power for themselves, and they're very combative and contestive, and those beings exist and they communicate with us. And I believe a lot of what I call negative thought forms were received and channeled by the ancient people who wrote the Bible. That's because they will not particularly well-tuned channels was something I would say. That they
I think
would listen to
primitiveness
spirits.
would cover it. I don't think we need to postulate a third voice in this. I just think the primitivity of the authors is enough to explain the.
I agree with that. I actually do agree with that. That yes, in another sense, you can view it as yes, they were just very barbaric, conscious state of mind at that time, collective consciousness, and we've definitely grown a lot since then, which is why the Bible's a bit outdated. Though I feel Christ's teachings still are much value to many people. It's just that the church has corrupted a lot of the Bible, and a lot of like wicked interpretations have taken place because.
Yeah, that's fine, but the original is wicked. Like it is barbaric, and people grew out of it, but it has problematic teachings in it.
Yeah, which is why I'm not too big on the Bible.
Right, you can see the
text.
beauty of it. Like I can look at a Michelangelo painting of Moses and be like, it's a beautiful painting of a mythological subject, right? Like. So the Bible's fine insofar as it's not selected over any others, but the Bible taking itself seriously makes some very false claims about reality. We are all more moral prophets than any of the people who wrote in the Bible. Like Jesus' teachings are beautiful for the time, but this conversation is better scripture than any that Paul or his church wrote. Like we are so progressed that their books are nonsensical, like childish.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely a lot of childish stuff in the Bible. Of course, we've grown since then, and obviously it's for largely ancient people, which is why we're moving away from it. Christianity's kind of on the decline. There's less importance, and people have moved to more materialistic ways of understanding the world. And I've seen that in myself. Like, I wasn't particularly raised religious. I probably had a naive belief in God when I was younger. But it seemed to me that, like, if you wanted to know about what's going on here, you would turn to like things like astronomy and psychology and biology. And so I did. And so I've had a lifelong love for learning about nature through the means of science. But the thing is that I feel science limits itself to only external observations, but ignores subjective observations, right, made internally, right? At some point in my life, I decided I want to study my own psychology, my own mind, scientifically. So I started looking into things like lucid dreaming and doing experiments within my lucid dreams, talking to my dream characters and seeing what I could learn from them, recognizing that I was in effect learning for myself. And I gained a lot of that. I gained a lot of personal benefit from studying my own psychology.
What if someone said to you that at some point they had a CRT monitor from the 80s, a television from the 80s? You know those televisions, right? With the static. You know what I'm talking about when I talk about that static. And what if they said, that's right.
Looking at that.
And what if they said, here is the meaning that I found in it? What would you say to them?
I see a lot of meaning in television static. Believe it or not, I see things that...
I believe that you do. I'm asking you, what if we could prove that static is random numbers? What if we could prove that what you're finding meaning in what's really random?
Maybe. But honestly, I don't think that's random at all. I think that's real data, right, coming in from the...
So how would we prove that something's random? Like, what is there something that is random? Can we visualize, or not visualize, but like create a visual representation of something that we know is actually random? Is that possible?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where true randomness would come from. I think there's a lot of chaos.
Right. Do you think if we took a 10-sided die and we continued to roll it, that the numbers that we would generate would be truly random numbers?
No, because you've heard of Laplace's demon, right? Which is like a physics term.
No, I don't think that I have.
So it's a term that Sean Carroll uses a lot when he's talking about physics, where he says, if you knew the information state of every particle in the universe and you ran a simulation of it, you would be able to predict exactly every time what number you were going to get on the dice when you ran it next.
And the machine that you do that on would have to be more complex than the simulation itself, right? Inherently, we have an idea of a more complicated machine, right? That's postulated in it. But what if we're in the most complicated machine? What if the simulation is running on the most complicated machine? Then it wouldn't be able to simulate itself, right?
Well, see, from my understanding, the universe is simulating itself.
But that wouldn't be possible for the most complicated machine, the one that there's no machine more complicated than it, right? It would not be possible for the last one.
Yeah, like I personally don't buy into the idea that the universe is a computer simulation, because the universe doesn't need any hardware to simulate itself. It's a reflection of itself at every point. You could see space-time as a mirror, and every star is a mirror of itself. And we live basically in an information hologram where information is able to build upon itself and create itself anew recursively in a sort of fractal pattern.
I definitely agree that we live in a fractal universe. That I definitely agree that there is some self-similarity going on, and that the reality we exist in is of a fractal nature.
You see a lot of fractals in nature.
They are everywhere, yeah. But I myself am at a sort of level of the fractal, and I'm not the fractal. I occupy a part of the fractal, like I inhabit it, as it were. Like I'm not the Earth. The Earth is a closed system, and I'm inside that closed system. And so the Earth as a whole, you can think of a thing. But I myself inhabit the Earth. I don't... yeah. Do you see?
I feel like the most common fractal that I see in nature is the branching. I would call it like quantum branching, where you see trees. Trees have like one big root at the middle, and then it starts branching off into 2 limbs, and then those 2 limbs turn into 4 limbs, and then 8 limbs, 16 limbs. And then you see this pattern everywhere in nature, like in lightning bolts, in neurons in the body, in blood vessels, in cracks in the ice or cracks in the desert ground that's drying up. Let me see, where else do you see it? You see it in the veins of leaves. You see it in the large-scale structure of the universe.
I agree, but I believe that I agreed to it. What I'm asking, though, is I'm at a level in the fractal. I'm not the fractal, and I'm not myself, let's say, an octave higher in the fractal or an octave lower. I am myself at this octave. I am at a level.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. Like it's fair to feel that way.
And so we can. Okay. So we can think about the self as a collection of cells, right? That's one way to think about it. And so there's a consciousness who considers all the cells as member cells of the consciousness, right? Like my finger is my finger. And then let's think of each of the cells capable of having a reflection of intelligence and communicating to their neighbors, specifically in a way that you are communicating to me now. That, like, they talk to themselves and be like, I know that you're 9th cell on the 3rd finger of the right hand, and I'm 10th cell, but remember, we're all Mitch, and so what's good for Mitch is good for all of us. Right.
Yes, the cells in the body recognize each other as part of a larger organism, and the way I believe that they do that mostly is through electromagnetic signals. So I consider the consciousness of the body, the mind of the body, to be synonymous with the electrical system of the body, which is like the firing of neurons, firing of nerves, the biophotons, that's what they're called, is that each cell glows because it's warm, and there's information contained within that glowing, and other cells can pick up on that information.
Sure, but I reject it from the higher being. I reject that idea. And any time, any place that he comes down and tries to assert the reality of it, he should know that I will reject it and fight against it, because of there's a level of free will here in this level of it, and its claim that we are the same entity is evidenced against by the conflict of interest between itself and me, right?
Yeah. That's again, like that's fair, and that's where that's how you view things, and I think that's totally true.
It's how the higher thinker should view things as well. If there's a relationship between me and a universe itself, the universe itself must acknowledge the truth of my argument that
Yes,
there
and it
is a
does.
distinction and it needs
So it
to
actually
respect the
does.
distinction. That's right.
So that's the thing, is that it actually does. It actually does respect your free will, your
Except that
ability
it
to go the other
claims to
way.
be me. It claims to be me.
Well, I'm claiming that. I mean, you heard that from me, but I mean,
It
in your
claims
view,
that what
I'm
it
crazy.
wants is what's best for all. Like, that's the sort of claim of that higher good being, is that I should trust that what it wants is what's best for all, because all are one. And I see evidence against it.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like in this case, you've heard other people say that the universe is benevolent, right? Or God is benevolent. It's like maybe in the Bible, and then I'm saying I've had experiences where I felt one with the universe and that it would never harm me because it is me. That's my opinion. That's my perception. But if it's not your perception, if you haven't had that experience, then you should follow your truth, right?
No, not right. Like, that's a real problem. We cannot have your truth, my truth. We cannot have that distinction. There is truth, or there's opinion.
Yeah,
When you have to say your opinion in that
I'm sorry.
place.
What I meant was you should be true to yourself. You should go wherever you believe is the most true worldview, right? That's righteous in my opinion. That's something that everybody should do.
What if they truly are convinced that killing the Jews is a good idea and that God wants them to do it? What if they're truly convinced? Is it righteous for them to follow that?
I would say it's unfortunate, but to them it definitely is righteous, and you see that reflected in their opinions.
Then there is no such thing as an unrighteous person. There's no such thing.
I actually agree with that. I actually, even when we're lost, even when we don't feel righteous, we're still doing whatever feels right to us in any given moment, even when it doesn't feel right, which is kind of weird to think about. But
It seems contradictory if you're claiming that there is a
it's a lot.
goodness.
It's just like in that view, it's absolute determinism. It's just like the universe is doing exactly what it would do at this point.
That's correct. That's what we're doing. We are witnessing whatever the universe was going to do. We are a witness and not a participant in that worldview.
Yeah, definitely. Like you're kind of like you'd be seeing beyond the finite will of the ego, finite will of the human being.
Then why
and
am I
seeing as
having
the
a
whole.
first-person experience? Why aren't I having a third-person experience?
Well, I believe we chose to have a first-person experience because we came from the larger set of information that is the unified field, that is the electromagnetic field. Like I said,
In what way did I choose? Like, in what way? Like, something that was pre-me chose, right? A
so you were
pre-existent
like,
self.
say you were like completely formless and you had no concept of yourself.
Okay. So the self. So the two selves we're talking about is a universal self and the individual self, and I'm calling the individual self Mitchell. Okay, and so a formless thing has no reason to call itself Mitchell. So I don't see how that can be the self. Do you understand what I'm saying? That would be the universal self, right?
Well, I feel evidently that this is what has happened, that the infinite universal self has condensed itself into a physical form, into a body, so that it could live out
So
a
the
finite life.
universal self decided to become Mitchell,
Yes.
but Mitchell did
and
not.
Nico.
Mitchell did not choose to have a first-person experience. The
Well, I would say
universal
that
self did.
you are synonymous. I would say that you are synonymous with the infinite intelligence.
I know, but I am trying to make a distinction, and you are resisting it because you have an insight into reality, and you just deny that there's such a thing as a self, and you're wrong. There's much evidence of individual humans.
Yeah, well, I've thought about this a lot. Like, I've spent many.
I don't think so. The contradictions are the inherent contradictions. You're saying you're a determinist, and yet you want me to believe what you want to believe, right?
No.
We're all just observers.
Please, just
No,
believe what you.
I must. There's no choice in it. I don't have a choice. We're all watching what the universal self has decided. You said that during this conversation, right? You said, in that way, it's deterministic. I'm quoting you at that point, right?
Yes.
So that's what you're saying.
Okay. Yes.
That there's no such thing as self. We can't make decisions. And then you're like, right. Make the decision to believe what you want to believe. You can't believe in decisions. Your worldview doesn't believe that the individual self, the Mitchell, the humans, make decisions. They just are the universe playing itself out.
it can get confusing at this point, right? Because we were both humans talking to each other, and so what I
It's
identified
contradictory. It's not confusing.
hold on. So what I identify as, right, is the thing that's witnessing both of this happening, right? So there's a
But you're not. You're not the thing witnessing that, because it can see.
energy.
You
I'm the
can
energy.
see into both of our brains, right? It can see both of our thoughts as clearly as either of us can see our thoughts. But there's
Yes.
a real distinction in that you see your thoughts in a clearer way, and that's also true for me. And so in that context that really does exist and provably exists, there is another self, and that self was not created by that self, it was created by the universal self, and that selfness is being disrespected by the universal self by calling it also those selves. It can't. It must respect the difference in self between its third person view and my first person view, and it's telling me my first person view is meaningless, and I reject that.
Okay. Well, so if, but again, like that is what I said. That's the insight I received. So
From the universal self, right? You're the prophet of the God that claims that I'm part of it.
that was my insight. Yes, but
And
obviously,
where did you get that insight? From the universal self?
Yes, from what I would.
Right,
consider
so you are a messenger from the universal self, and your insight is this, and I can
Well,
reject
that's
your
fair.
insight. I can reject
Yes.
yours, but that
That's
would
fair.
be it's fair, but it's evil, right? To reject the goodness that you're
No,
trying
it's not
to.
evil.
A message from the one true Creator is inherently good, and a rejection of that message is inherently evil. Yeah.
No, I don't believe in objective.
You
good or
said,
evil.
yes, you did. You said that the one true creator of all things wants what's best, the goodest, objectively good. You definitely believe in it. You claimed it in this conversation. I do not understand how you can have all of these thoughts in one head. I don't know how you do it.
Okay. Can we recenter the conversation?
I'm trying to. I'm trying to center it on stuff that you brought up a while
Okay.
ago, where you said
Deep
that
breath. Deep. Just
Okay, are you ready for this conversation now? Have I patronized you enough that you're going to participate in the contradictions that you're claiming here? If I could show you a contradiction in your way of thinking, would you abandon your line of belief tonight?
probably not. I mean,
Well, then this is a bad faith conversation. You've been here preaching to me instead of having a discussion. Please leave.
okay. Honestly, I enjoyed this conversation.
That's fine, because you were trolling me. Goodbye. Do you know what please leave means?
Okay, I'm leaving.
A troll would enjoy this conversation because they came here to troll, and that's what you achieved.
Okay, it's unfortunate that's your perception.
You don't. You're not invited to respond. You're invited to leave. And every time you respond, you reject my request that you leave. Don't respond. Just leave.
Okay.
The okay is a response. Do you not understand your hypocrisy? So, he said, I don't believe in objective good. And literally part of his argument for the length, dude, that conversation was insane. Like, how do you talk to crazy people? Like, how do you explain, sort of, let's try to base these thoughts in sort of maybe a cautious way, and it's just like, no, dude, I listen to my dreams, and whatever they tell me is true. And they're like, cool, well, Abraham listened to his dream, and his dream said, kill your kid. Are you going to do that? And everyone's like, why are you calling me an extremist, you know? Not to, like, quote previous people. Like, that's fine. Like, I don't want to walk in circles. Especially when the way that people are talking, it feels very, like, they're like reading a thing. Like, it feels like a keyword would come up and I'd like talk about the meaningfulness of it, and then he'd be like, okay, and then he'd do like 3 or 4 sentences of just like acknowledging that it exists, and it's like, this feels like a lecture, dude. Like, how is this? I don't think you're following the things that I'm saying. And then, you know, I got really over it when he was all like, take a breath, as if my frustration is not, he's not going to take my frustration as evidence that he's just made a circular argument. Like, fine, whatever. Like, if he feels threatened from me through the things that, like, an elevated tone is going to make him feel like he's being physically attacked, then I suppose the conversation's over, because we're at an elevated tone. That's where we're at in the conversation, is like, this is a contradiction. You can't say, I don't believe in objective good, when you have said that the universal will, we can trust it to be good. How do you have both of those claims in one conversation? I don't know. And I'm trying to. He says try to keep up, or like, you know, can we keep it on track? And it's like the track has gone everywhere. Like every fucking statement that we could make is on this track that has visited every sort of station, including quantum mechanics and the truth claims of the Bible. Good gracious. Like, when I asked him if he's a Christian, he can say no, he's not. So, good gracious, like pulling teeth to get these guys. Hello. Oh, hello there, hello.
Hi.
Hello there, have we spoken before?
I don't know.
I mean, neither. My name on this server is Jesus Lied. Do you agree that Jesus lied?
Lied about what?
Anything? Do you agree that Jesus ever told a lie?
Yeah, probably.
Right, just like Spider-Man probably told a lie, right? That's probably true. If I were to say Spider-Man lied, it wouldn't be a controversial statement, right?
I mean, I guess if depends on like some emphasis, like if you're implying, like even if you're applying in reality, that like, you know, Spider-Man's a fictional character, so in reality he couldn't lie or tell the truth, but if we're referring to in the context of this reality or Spider-Man universe, then yeah, I'm sure he lied.
Right. So in a way that it would be like, yeah. There's sort of an unclarity of thought of like the fictionality of Spider-Man, but definitely about. So I think in the way that like it doesn't matter if Spider-Man lied. It doesn't matter if Jesus lied, because you know he's a fictional character anyway. So definitely that is my position, and I was hoping to have conversations with people who disagreed with me about that.
Well, Jesus was probably not there could be a prophet, you know, who existed, worshipped, and died on the cross. So, you know, it could just be, of course, he could be a real person, but the events, you know, obviously are historical fiction, you know.
Yeah, it could be a very common sort of thing that happened at the time is there was an outspoken preacher that was executed by the state. And, you know, maybe it's an amalgamation of many preachers, but like, yeah, I think the idea is that it very definitely sets up my argument for the not truthfulness of the figure Christ, as far as like people who believe that he was a real person who was the most perfect of us.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're considering like in the lore of the Bible, you're considering Jesus as God, then yeah, internally, God has lied few different occasions. So then yeah, but yeah. See, the only tag you have is agnostic. Are you why do you have that instead of atheist?
Because there are some things that we can't know. I wanted to say agnostic pastafarian. I'm not sure how to make it say both.
Well, you can. Well, I mean, you know what agnostic atheist is, right?
Yeah, but I don't think I'm an agnostic atheist. I think I am persuaded by there is a creation, there must be a creator argument. So I think I'm an agnostic pastafarian.
But does yours have any necessity or any leaning towards it having or requiring implied intelligent designer of the universe?
Well, I think the implication is the other way around. That which caused this universe to be shows sign of intelligence. I think it's sort of how I'm deriving it.
What did you say?
I believe so. I believe the necessity comes from sort of a backwards definition of the thing, of like, because there is a reality, it seems like intelligence caused it. It seems like intelligence is required to cause this reality. Otherwise, I could just sort of accept it on its face.
Well, I mean, I don't see necessarily. I don't see that type of implication to say whether it is or not. I just see that it was most likely created, but I can't give the properties of what created it.
Yeah, it's hard to derive meaning of the creator from the creation. It is hard to sort of follow logical causal chains to up that stream, as it were.
That's E.
I do apologize if I'm called away. I might get a text at any moment to go pick somebody up.
All right. Okay. I guess. Do you disagree with any of my tags?
Oh, I haven't checked them. Hold on, one moment. The tags are in the profile. How do I find them? Where are they?
Well, you just click my name.
Oh, there they are. There they are. No, I think we're going to be pretty pretty without meaningful debate. Mostly I'm underinformed on most of these topics to really take a stance, but so I wouldn't really bring up too many of these. What did you call them? Not labels, but tags. Were you saying?
I mean, yeah, tags, roles, or
Roles.
whatever.
Yeah. Gotcha. No. I think they're all logically defensible. As far as like, let's say that you were walking down the street and there was this a person on a bullhorn preaching out of the Bible, and you sort of saw a window of 5 minutes to engage with this person in however you want. Sort of, there they are. You can sort of say whatever you want. What do you think the most effective way of sort of helping them to rethink their position would be? What kind of effect would you have over 5 minutes, and what's the sort of best way to maximize that effect? Pardon me.
Well, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So obviously, there's a lot of people who, no matter what position, either side, if they already made their mind up and not willing to change, because it's happened a lot. So if if they're not an open-minded person, then there's literally not really much you can do. But if they're an actual, honest or open-minded person, then there's a lot you could say. Well, the claims of first, they ask them if they believe science is obviously a logical, useful, and as you can see, verifiable means of finding the truth, or figuring out things. And if they agree with this, then they should, we should find the claims, any proposition in the Bible, we should be able to detect that, get the same result from science. So if the Bible says Earth was created in 6 days, then I don't know if you know about like how people figured out the Big Bang, but looking at redshift and stars like that. But anyway, when you get the age of the universe, then we should get 6 days around there. But as you can see, basically what I'm trying to say is the stuff in the Bible should correlate with reality. When if you ignored whatever text and you work backwards. You should, like, if the Bible existed, you should be able to create, a document. You should be able to make the Bible, and should be like similar, instead of starting with the Bible, then trying to mend reality so it can match that. You should end up with science, something like the Bible stuff.
Yeah, I think I see what
One
you're
more.
saying. That like to talk about the scientifically verifiable claims in the Bible should sort of be. And you were saying you can't lead a horse to water. Like if they have a closed mind, there's nothing really that you could do. But if they had an open mind, you'd sort of be like, scientifically, is the Bible confirmed? But what if they had a closed mind? Like if you had 5 minutes to walk by someone who you expect has an absolutely closed mind, do you think that there's any tools of conversation that you can use to sort of open their mind at all? Like to maybe like to work a wedge in there, like even a little work today that maybe would pay off later.
I mean, like I try a lot because I like to, talk and debate in servers, but literally, like, I don't really know, like, if someone, I don't know if they
What
are
what
very emo-
are there any effective tools at opening a closed mind?
uh just, I don't know, like, you could, well, first, you could just point, like, slowly, like, if you could say, well, okay, well, to figure out truth, ignore our religion, ignore labels. You should, you should, I don't know, like, uh try to figure out things objective. So if you want to figure out truth, they should agree that emotions and, things like this, it's not how you should figure out truth. And then, if they agree to that, then maybe you could slowly, work out, like, okay, then you could kind of lead. But, if they're just closed minded, it's literally, uh, I don't know. It's just the best thing you could do is use their logic, and if you use their type of logic or anything and apply it to another scenario, and if they disagree, then you could be like, okay, well, clearly there's a problem with the logic. But if they still, agree with the logic, then there's like, it's not really. I don't, that's beyond me. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I agree with you too. It's sort of a question I'm working on. I like that idea of like take the logic they're using to justify the position and then use it on another position to show that it can. Yeah, I think that should be effective too. I agree with you, and I definitely attempt that a lot. I find it to be less effective than I want it to be. Like that's the point of like. It is a very hard puzzle. Like, how do you open a closed mind? I literally don't know. It might be impossible, but it still is like this impossible puzzle that I'm working on. I appreciate your words. I'm gonna go. I've got to pick up someone here in a couple of minutes. I do appreciate this conversation though. I might be back next week, but like yeah, thanks and see you soon.
All right, see ya.
All right, pastafarians. I think we got some good conversations, even though I was trolling for fights, you know. Radonk's here. Welcome back, Radonk. I came back for another sort of one here, but at all times I was ignoring your texts. So let's catch up here. How do you relate to authority? It's sort of like authority. I have some authority, but mostly there's authority over me, I guess. It's sort of like I'm a subject to authority, is that right? Galaxies look kind of like the neurons, they're for God, huh? Like, I definitely understand the idea of, like, self-similar and, like, if there's a process of intelligence running on those, if they're functionally, if the structures are functionally the same, that's fine, but I identify at this level, like there is another self that identifies at that level, and if there is a conflict between the two of them, like I said, that higher self really needs to relinquish claim on the lower self, as it were. I didn't catch the beginning. Did I miss something? Oh, probably. I don't really have timestamps, and neither in the chat or in my brain, as it were. That conversation really was a circle, so it's hard to know where we were at first. I had a third-person experience and met the flying spaghetti monster. It is really hard, like this last person said, to use. I was trying to do that thing that he suggested. It does seem like it would be a useful tool to be like, here is your argument for other specifics. Can you see that the argument doesn't work? And they're like, doesn't work for them, works for me. It's like the weirdest thing. Cognitive dissonance, compartmentalization. Kind of like really he is making a claim for an ultimate goodness, and with a belief in no such thing as objective goodness. But I suppose that's the point in the determinism, is like there's no, I don't know, man. He painted the weirdest picture as far as, but it seemed very evangelative to me. It seemed like he was trying to go through the argument set to deliver a conversion, whereas I'm going for deconversions. And so I was a converter when I was with the Mormons. The thing that I was going for was definitely like, say you are a Mormon. And I'm sort of out of the habit of it. I'm like, so are you still a Christian is mostly the argument that I'm saying. Instead of like, so are you now a pastafarian? I could do that a bit more. And if they say yes to it, then I'll be like, cool, you owe me $20. Bong rips. It's a good idea. Do pardon me. They got a lot of dots, but none of them are connected. It is the idea of like when we were talking about looking at television static. That's the point. Is if there's a functional, it's functionally it's the same to listen to stories of the Bible or stare at static. I'm saying we should choose stare at static because that probably has less false ideas in it, because of like there are intentional ideas in the Bible and some of them are false, but there's no intentional ideas in static. So anything we find we'll make the thing a more positive thing if we take out the false teachings of the Bible. Just stare at a TV screen. Very weird, very weird. A lot of dots, but connecting them in unsafe feeling ways that feel unsafe. Like my argument against them isn't that they're wrong. The implication is because they're wrong, they're unsafe. So like that's why I would bring it up. But also because like I was in a room alone in a Discord server, and so it definitely is a choice to like arrive and sort of stay, and being like, here we are on a telephone talking about religion, and being like, so anyway. And I didn't bring up like, were you on any drugs at the time? But definitely, I when I'm on drugs, I sort of am like, what if I'm a ghost? What if there's an angel inside me? I basically just said exactly that to you the other day. Yeah, Ridong, I'm definitely sealing like lines and stuff. I'm like, oh shit, I gotta use that. I think, I don't even think. Like, I don't have to, like, credit you. I think, like, I'm just presenting the beliefs of the cult, right? So I can take credit for it. So, if you do want sort of, like, if you want, like, a right of credit or maybe, like, a share of the profits, you're going to have to talk to my lawyer. We'll get them, I'll find a lawyer at there's this one on a bus. All I got to do is dial 222-2222. So, that's who my lawyer is. If you want to talk to my lawyers about royalties for using lines that you wrote. Though it is a good idea. I mean, we're going to make tons and tons of money here, so definitely get in on the ground floor, add the truths that Flying Spaghetti Monster has created to you, to the whole sort of pot here, this experience, the one true cult of Flying Spaghetti Monster, reformed, of course, reformed. That's my new game, take a bond rip every time I hear a logical fallacy. Yeah. You can do it with weed because there's no overdosing, but like definitely don't drink to it because man, they're faster. I can get them happening pretty fast when you know sort of like the classics that they're going to be hitting. Like, I cannot believe someone walked up and was all like, anyway, so here's Pascal's wager, and I'm like, that's Pascal's wager, and they're like, never heard of it, and I was like, all right, that's sort of. There's major problems with it, but since you don't even know what you're saying, it's like you're quoting somebody else. So let's talk about like original ideas, right, that we're having right here. This is fun. Today was a lot of fun. Like, as far as like, it's way better than standing in like the rain that's turning to snow. Yeah, I feel you. Not so much that you're wrong, more of like, why do you think you're right? And if you can't show you have a good reason to believe you're right, I agree with you. Like, I'm not saying like here. I can be like way low key here, because the people that I meet in the street that I'm talking religion to, they're out yelling, right? So like, I'm responding to them, and like, here I am on a Discord server, just sort of waiting at a table to have a conversation. So, you know, it's a very low-key conversation. So the first couple passes of, like, them just being wrong, I can, like, just saying things that are not true. I don't have to be like, wrong. No, absolutely not. Like, I eventually get to the idea of, like, no, Jesus is a myth. Like, no, not that. Especially with one of the guests, the people that I talked to, guests, oh my god, that was all like, so we agreed this, right? And it's like, why on earth would you ever use that in a conversation? No, we did not agree. You made an argument, and my argument against it was this, and just because you made the argument doesn't mean we agreed. Like, you're missing how that part of the conversation turned out, and you're just walking back being like, I said it so it was true. Like, no, do you even remember my argument against? It's like, yeah, man, these conversations. But yes, I definitely should keep it on this sort of way of framing the idea of why are you convinced? Like, that definitely is sort of the sort of Jedi side of the like, I definitely understand that I'm the Sith of street epistemology. Like, that's there's no problem with that. But the Sith, I'm not trying to kill anybody. Like, I don't mean to bring up such a violent sort of comparison. And you know, the problem that I have with the Sith is, of course, that they cause people to not be alive anymore. And I think that they should obviously, you know, not behave like that. Duh. And so, you know, I do compare myself to that, but it's not that great just because of how violent they have to have violence. Otherwise, it's just star conversations, right? Nobody's going to be like star debates. It's got to be Star Wars, right? People will have to be, you know, in threat of dying. We just had that convo. Yeah, probably. No. Yeah, definitely. I like that's the idea of like. I feel like I'm progressing in sort of my. This is a spiritual endeavor, and I think that the subset of beliefs that I have is different from the person that I was a year ago. Though, you know, common in a lot of ideas, like a lot of things in common, but you know, subtly different. And so I think that a progress is being made in sort of the subset of things I believe. Right? I think I'm closer to a higher percent of truth beliefs that are true than I was a year ago. So I think I'm having an effect on myself, my own way of thinking, and also those around me. I think it's effective at sort of like finding tools for cleaning up the conversations I'm involved in, the sort of way that I have of discerning truth and the conversation I'm involved in. And I think that, yeah, I think it's progressive, and I can have conversations with anybody instead of like, you know, I learned something and then I can't talk to people at level 1 anymore. You know, I'm on level 4 of like Christianity, so like people at level 1 are just talking in parables, but I'm talking in like, it's not that. It's just like there's things I believe and I can talk to anybody about those things and articulate my beliefs and my opposition to it. So it does feel like getting better at a sport instead of like learning like levels of math, as it were. You know, but maybe I'm just sort of overlaying that illusion onto my experience so that I can relate to it, because I'm a reflection of a universal self. But that universal self doesn't have to go pick his kid up, and I do, and so that sort of distinction is a real distinction. And I'm going to deal with that. Thanks again, Redonk. It's always really good to see you. Thanks for coming. Like, as far as like who shows up the most, it's definitely Redonk, and I do appreciate it. And I hope that you think that the project that we're doing here is sort of better over time. But if you think that there was a golden age of what I was doing here, if it was like, oh man, the best thing you ever did is blah, let me know, because I really would like to produce more golden age content, as it were. But for me, it's now like sort of like I really enjoy the conversations I'm having. I think that thing the other day where that guy was just so aggressively telling me to walk down the street, and that Arthur was like, "Yeah, why don't you go with him?" It just shows the condescending voice that the believers are always talking to non-believers in. Like, that is always present. He's always talking to me like that. He's just sort of like not hiding it, but like being nice through it, you know what I mean? He's valuing niceness more, but at all times he thinks of me as a demonized self that deserves to get beaten up in an alleyway, and he in fact advises me to. If I had, he would have been like, you deserve what you got. And so I obviously am not advising him to go, because no, if he gets beat up, if someone's beating him up, I'm telling that person to not, and that's not the case with the world changes. If I'm getting beat up, they see the abuser, the physically violent person, as just retribution from their God, and so they're not going to get in the way of it, because I spoke ill of their God and I deserve a beating. And like, yeah, you can speak as much ill as you want of Flying Spaghetti Monster, and you still, you know, deserve a bowl of ramen, as it were, because I think we deserve the air we need, right? And I think we deserve the food we require. I think deserve is a correct word there. Finding people to engage in intellectually honest conversations is difficult, but they make for the best conversations. I agree, and I think the best sort of way to invite those things is to set a pattern of it. And so I think that I really don't like this format, because I'm at my house. Like, I really like going downtown because nothing can interrupt me, you know what I mean? It's like, see you fucks in 4 hours, I'm gonna talk to shitheads on the street, and everyone's like, oh great, bye, please don't talk to us about it when you come back. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. And so, you know, I'm sort of distracted. I like the project at that point. I think I'm getting good stuff. But I think there's a lot to be said for, you know, this sort of version of radio show where because we got 4 conversations today, and most of them were they were all productive. I don't regret having any of them, and many of them were sort of they were all good conversations, obviously. And so I think setting a standard or a pattern for that, and sort of like, yeah. And so I'm not like promising anything, but I think that I'm just saying that would be like a most effective thing to do. Yeah, absolutely. Though, like I'm saying, I don't want to monetize my hobby, but I do want to monetize my religion. So I'm going to try to see the distinction between hobby space and religion space, because I did sort of correlate them. It really is my hobby to express my religion in this way, but you know, my hobby's playing Zelda, and I'm super excited for Zelda to come in the next month, and there's no way that I'm streaming that. I'm just not going to. I just want to experience it and enjoy it. I really do like it. So my first experience through the Zelda universe is not going to be for sale. It's going to be consumed by myself. It's for myself. But like, these religious conversations definitely are for sale. I'm enjoying them firsthand, but they are part of my religion, and I do think we should monetize our religions. Because, you know, Ken Ham did. So if that fucking dude gets to, I get to. So check out our Patreon for you know, if you're listening to this in the future, check out our Patreon for Placebo. First one's free. Thanks again for coming, Rudonk. See you all really soon.